Xtreme Championship.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is your host, Hughes Pop, the Hughes Pop Wrestling Power Hour Extreme, talking Survivor Series with my boy Sin. Welcome back to the show, Sin. And
Happy
our
to
new
be
guest,
here.
Bam Bam. From
What up?
How you guys doing? You know what? This morning, holy crap, we are going to break down Survivor Series, and feel free to give your opinions on everything, guys. And because this is the who cares what your thoughts are. If they're your opinions, they're your opinions, and we're going to talk about We're going to talk about Survivor Series. So, look who pops in, but
Who is it?
The famous Gina. What's up, Gina? Welcome to the show. Welcome
Hi,
to the
Gina.
show. I miss you, girl. So, of course, Survivor Series being one of what I call WWE's top 5. I call it PPVs. They're now calling it whatever they want to call it.
Premium live events.
PLEs, who cares? Whatever. It's still pay-per-views for me. Survivor Series was last night. So it had four matches. It had the women's the War Games, the men's War Games. They had Rhea Ripley, Joey Starks. They had Miz and Gunther. Did I miss one?
Yeah, that's 5 total. I think you named them all off.
Okay.
Yeah, you forgot about Escobar and Dragon Lee.
Escobar and Dragon Lee, which is probably one of my favorites, actually. So, anyways, let's break down the first match, the War Games women's match. And I'll let Sid and Bam Bam go first, what their thoughts were of that match. And then I'll finish up the story until we're moving into the next one. So, whichever one of you guys want to give their thoughts on that match, feel free to go do so.
I guess I'll go first. As a whole, there was nothing wrong with the match. You know what I mean? I think I gave it a 3 out of 5. That's why I was glancing over to my side. I have it jotted down. It's just I've always been a huge fan of War Games, and I don't feel like they did everything. They left some meat on the bone. You know what I mean? Obviously the crowd wanted to see a table. That we learned that the first match. They really wanted to see tables.
Right.
Some of the high spots were pretty dang good. The spot where she put the trash can over and jumped off the cage probably is what comes out to mind for me. But overall, I don't know. It seemed to lack some of the viciousness that I expect out of a War Games match. That's where I kind of sat on it.
Okay. All right. Bam Bam?
Well, I mean, it's hard. It's always hard with a multi-person match, is what I'm going to start off by saying. There's way too much going on. There's having to remember everything from start to finish, and it's like, okay, what do we do? And a lot of stuff sometimes maybe isn't planned, and that is and it shows a lot. Like when Becky and Bailey started, there was a lot of like, it's almost like as from a worker standpoint, like they were like, okay, what do we do to fill this gap? We just got to kind of do something just to fill the time for the next person to come out. And it felt like there was a lot of stalling. There wasn't really much planned for a spot, except for that kendo stick shot in the beginning. And it just, it felt like they were kind of lost from watching it. And to me, like, I felt like there was also a lot of like kind of standing around during the setups, like when they're setting up the high spots, like they're just standing there waiting for the next person to hit them when they could have just hit them themselves and kept going. But that's when it comes to big time WWE, though, that's, you know, they get the pass for that. But on the indie scene, we would have got yelled at when we walked backstage for standing there.
Yeah, I agree. They use the camera to pan away from certain things.
Yeah.
So you don't notice them, but a live crowd would notice them.
Yeah. The one spot of the night that I liked the most was the trash can spot. That was hilarious. Like the way she sold that in, and she was like, huh, puts it on and goes, wee, off the side of the cage. It's like, oh my God, that was awesome. But that was for me the spot of the night, like that made me laugh and pop for it. Other than that though, the match was like really good. Charlotte actually looked back for her moonsault, I think for the first time ever. Jim Cornette would be happy seeing that.
That is one thing I noticed too. She got all the way up there and she looked over her shoulder, and I'm like,
yep,
finally.
Yeah, finally. Yep. And then I mean there was some other things that I felt took forever. Like when they were doing the double finisher spot towards the end there, and they were supposed to get cut off by the two jumping off the top rope. Like that I think took a little too long. I'm like, dude, like normally people would have tapped by now, and these finishers, you got to hurry up and get up there. Like that took a little too long. Like, but
yeah.
The spot I wasn't fond of, because I'm watching it here as we're on this. It remind me, Bianca with her hair, right? She pulls in Bailey and I think it was Io, did a double suplex, and it always looks terrible if it's not hooked right. And one of them, like she did it, I'm like, man, you should just did a double DDT.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I agree, because Bailey went totally sideways, funky on the suplex.
Yeah. There was blood when there wasn't supposed to be, which I thought was kind of funny, because as soon as Becky caught some color here, when they took her out, it was they had the EMT patching her up there, trying to get her to stop bleeding on the side of the cage. I noticed that last night too.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, the one thing I did kind of have confused about is like the whole I was kind of confused on the whole heel face aspect, because it seemed like Damage Control was supposed to be the bad guys, but yet they were getting huge cheers from the crowd for stuff, and it's like, wow, that's a stone cold response.
Welcome to Chicago.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Didn't even think about that.
We've wrestled in Chicago plenty of times. We know.
So,
yeah, that match was really good. You talked about the spots, the high spots, the trash can spot. That was amazing. What these guys can do, how athletic these ladies are, etc. But I was watching this show with my wife. She was on her phone and she was watching with me, and we were talking, and she's like, she's not an advocate for professional wrestling whatsoever. Okay, so she loves movies, so she notices these things that I'm like, come on, you could ruin it for a fan, but whatever. So the spot with the trash can, it was interesting to see the other girls from Damage Control move over a step or whoever, and so they would be in position to catch her.
Yeah.
And then when Charlotte went up top, she looked back, and you say Cornette would love it, whatever. But to me, again, that she looked back to make sure they were in position. And when she does it without doing that, it looks so damn real. So, oh my God. And this one, it was like, okay, she's waiting. And again, you can see the shift of the Damage Control shifting over to catch that. So for me, they were great moves. Don't get me wrong; they were awesome moves. Probably one of that you remember those moves throughout the night, right? So anybody that climbs up to the top of that cage and jumps off, that's epic, right? So I did like those moves, but you could tell it was kind of like they were in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
No, that's the opposite, actually, because what we always complain about is Charlotte never looks like she should look. We're happy she looked, because normally she'll just get up on that top rope and just jump. And it's like, why didn't you look to make sure someone was there? Like that's what we complain about and from the wrestling side. Like her looking it's a about time moment.
Okay, well, to me, looking back says, "Oh shit, I got to make sure my spot's there, so I don't." You know what I'm saying? So I guess I'm as a fan side, I get what you're saying. As a wrestler, you're like, "Oh, she better look back." Because if she doesn't one time, she's gonna be her broader career would end.
Yeah.
You know, so I get that. But go ahead.
I find it's a matter of realism. If I'm going to do a backflip onto somebody for real, and they're hurt or whatever, I'm going to look back to make sure I don't moonsault just whee, and maybe I'll hit them. It adds realism to me. Like, okay, there's my target. I go.
All right, man. Yeah, if you put it in that context, but shoot, the trash can one, she didn't care. She got up there and she dove. And she's like, dudes, catch me, please. You got to know that's what she's thinking inside that trash can. She's like, oh my God, I hope they're there.
I've done spots with trash cans on my head before.
Wow.
And never would I be 20 feet above a hard arena floor and put a trash can on my head and just dive and be like, what happens, happens. Yeah. It's scary.
Right. I bet. I loved how Damage Control came out in the Oscar masks, different ones. That was sick.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I hated the hair. I'm not a Belair fan at all. I can't stand the hair. She's a great wrestler, but I'm over that character. What I didn't see, what I hoped was going to happen was a heel turn by somebody. All we've seen was there for a minute. We had Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. I thought for sure they were going to go at it, but they hugged it out. What a WWE moment. Then they came on to the press conference afterwards, and I love that spot where somebody said something about being a tag team, and I think Charlotte Flair sat up and go, "We're just dating right now." So that's pretty funny, but. I'm glad the right team won. I thought the right team won.
Well, there's
good.
So I think that not having a turn is probably going to lead up to something else. Me and Sid were talking about this last night. Bayley kind of carried the match and then took the pinfall. So there might be the boot out of Bayley from Damage Control. I kind of agree with that when we talked about it. It does kind of seem that way because they didn't do something like that during this match. There was not a lot of controversy. There was the whole Charlotte and Becky moment, and then that was it. But like,
yeah, well, but you seen Becky Lynch, not Becky. You seen Charlotte or Bayley back in the back. She's obviously was pissed.
Well, I mean, Bayley. You got to remember with all the additional members and stuff, they've been playing that off like they don't necessarily get along with Bayley. Right. Making that tag match, I believe was it Raw or was it SmackDown? I think it was Raw. They made the tag match, and they were like, "Well, Bayley, you need to be one of the people in the ring." You know what I mean? And she looked upset by that, and it just felt like I thought they were going to screw over Bayley during it, but. Right. I think it's fine if she eats the pin and maybe they do it on Monday.
Right. And I agree, Sid, because I see there's a lot of that happened last night. Setups for turns. Several matches had that in it.
Yes.
It's like, and you can't do it all. I mean, it's got to be systematically placed, who's going to be on Monday, who's going to get it on Thursday or Friday, when are they going to do all this? So, but yeah, you're right. Which leads me to this question I want to ask about your guys' opinions as wrestlers. There was a topic on TikTok that somebody brought up that there's female wrestlers don't belong in all the gimmick matches such as War Games, such as the Elimination Chamber. I believe that they put the work in. They go to that gym as much as the guys do. They put their time in. They deserve that spot.
I have to agree with that. Yeah, I have to agree with that. As a matter of fact, Becky Lynch getting busted open 10, 15 years ago, they're not going to soak up that blood. They just want to let it be there. It's more visceral. That was part of why I was upset about the War Games, just because they're women. If they get busted open or they want to do something that looks vicious, don't take that away from them.
Yeah. I think a lot of fans want to see the bra and panties match, the pudding match. To me, those were, they're women in bikinis, but that's not what I come to the show for.
Yeah, there's websites for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Mandy Rose is on them. Go join.
Diggs BTW7. What's up, guys?
Hey.
Any other closing remarks on the first match?
It did one thing properly. That 5 out of 5. It's making me wonder what's going to happen on Monday night. That's my final comment on that match. And a lot of matches did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we have one of my least favorite wrestlers going against my other least favorite wrestlers, The Miz and Gunther, whatever. Gunther's a beast. He's what I call probably a Bob Backlund style, old school style. Maybe that's what I don't like about it. But anyways, what's your guys' thoughts on that Miz and Gunther match?
I liked it. For me, it got a 3.75, almost a 4 out of 5. Only because you go into the match, and they mentioned this on commentary. What was he, like a 5,000 to 1 odds on the betting that Miz was going to win? So none of us went into this thinking Miz stood a chance. Hey, Johnny Cass.
Johnny.
As I was saying, going into it, none of us expected the Miz to have any near falls or anything that was believable that he could win his 9th title. And very good on the announcers pointing out Chris Jericho has 9, and he was searching out 9, even though he's in AEW.
Yeah.
I like that. The match overall, the Miz with the double low blow into the skull crushing finale, I thought for a minute, oh my goodness, they're actually going to do this.
Yes.
And that for me helped make the match. The little things, him starting out of the gates hard and then getting shut down, and then him with the low blow and hitting the skull crushing. There was just moments in that match where I was like, man, Miz is going to win this, which I was not feeling like when they were entering.
Yeah. I agree with you, Sin. Again, Miz proved me wrong. He went out there, he did his job. I thought more than not that he was going to win that match. I loved his tights. I loved it. I have enormous balls or something like that. I can't. But it was on there. That was pretty funny. But that skull, that finale that he had, skull crushing finale, and his low blows. I'm like, holy shit, they're going to do this, and I mean, it wouldn't have hurt my feelings, to be honest with you. It's about time that WWE stops him in that ring with the Miz TV and puts him back in the ring to wrestle. He can do damage if he's in the ring and used properly as a wrestler. And I don't think this is over. I think he could still win a title.
Yeah.
But it was a great match. It did show Miz's strength. It showed him as a badass at times. And it was believable. But in the end, of course, with the chops, and Gunther just came through like he always does, and he retained. So I'm not mad at that. But that's how I viewed it. I said a 3.75 as well. I should say a 4 because it did have everything that I wanted in it. So yeah,
it had more than I expected.
Yeah, absolutely.
It missed one thing.
What's that?
That really hard chop that you take a bump off of. That's the only thing it was missing. I was waiting for it the whole time, and it didn't happen. I was so happy for Miz because, if you recall, there was a time a couple years back or some few years back where people were complaining about Daniel Bryan being too stiff in the ring. And then you got a guy like Gunther in the ring now, and it's like, dude, you could visibly see that's way harder than anything that Daniel Bryan was like throwing. And it's like, how is no one complaining now? And then Miz was one of the ones that used to complain the most about being too stiff, and he went through this match like a champ, man. His chest was red. beat red by the end of this thing, and oh man, I'm proud. I'm proud of the Miz for going through this because like this is the first match that we saw of him actually go. Like all of his other matches were all just the gimmicky WWE match where he just did all the easy stuff. This one he actually worked a match and he did great. I loved it.
I love the shout out to Bret Hart in 2 different points in the match.
Yes,
The figure 4 on the corner turn post, and the crawl up the turnbuckles, flip over the guy when he's got you in the sleeper to pin him. That was also how Bret Hart beat Piper for the same belt. I love that.
Yeah, that and WWE has been doing a lot of that payback, stuff like that. So, as a wrestler, I got to ask this question: how hard and how hurtful are those chops? Because you guys have all took a chop, I'm sure.
depends on who's giving them.
Who's the hardest one that gave you a chop, Bam Bam?
Man,
I got to be in the top 3, right?
out of respect, yes. The hardest chop, I've never taken it, but I've seen it and it's damaged. The person that I think chops the hardest in Chicagoland has to be Marche Rocket.
Yeah.
He's, but I've never taken a chop from him. The funny part is my friend has, and it left a welt on his chest for like a month. It was rough. I mean, the hardest chop I ever took, like I think honestly, man, it's not necessarily the first chop. It's actually the next 3 is what because I mean I've had welts too. I can't even think of who chops the worst because they all suck. Like they all hurt. There's no stopping it from hurting. Like the first initial impact. Like there's so many guys that just throw good chops, and it's like Sin right here. He throws some hella mean ones, man. And it's usually like the first really good one that you wake up, you're like, oh man, shouldn't agreed to this one. And then here comes three more, and you're like, oh, I have to take it. So here we go.
Now, would you guys say that is the hardest received move as a wrestler?
No.
It's one of the safest too. It hurts, but it's super safe.
So that's not the most hurtful one?
No.
No.
There's some submission holds that hurt way worse because some of them some guys just shoot it in.
Yeah, Kurt Rigsby literally almost choked me out in a match once because I told him to shoot. He is an MMA fighter. I told him to kind of sink the choke, and he did. But for chops, the hardest chop I've ever taken probably was from Jonas the Giant. Rest in peace. He was part of the original Powerhouse Wrestling and a couple other companies. And Jonas was like 6'7", 6'8". He had a hand like a frying pan. And when he came down and smoked you, your chest was screwed for the next week or 2. It was just going to be scarred up. But for stiffness in a match, like Joey was talking about, me and Milo Cash always had an agreement. We worked each other multiple times. We were always under the understanding that we were going to work it what we like to call hard Japanese style, where we were just going to throw stuff. And we beat the crap out of each other for 10, 15 minutes in our matches.
Wow. Yeah. Awesome.
The funny part is you get that stinger from that chop, right? And
that initial.
Most of the times people will not chop unless they have to in the moment. I'm always the guy to start it in any battle royal that I'm in because I think it's funny because it's the most realist thing that we can throw. And some people's punches don't look, too good.
Oh, you were bringing up the beginning of the women's match earlier about how they look lost. Bayley's punches looked fantastic. That is one thing I noticed.
Yes, they look great. They were all solid.
Looked like she was killing her.
So we're moving down to Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee. Go ahead, Sin.
Ah, man. This is so hard to rank because I felt like Dragon Lee did not get to do as much as I would have liked to see.
But that's the point.
I guess so if you're building Escobar, but I kind of feel like they kind of buried Dragon Lee. You don't agree with me on that?
No.
I mean, his first real pay-per-view match, they're already going for the mask. He's getting his ass kicked, in my opinion, 80% of the match. Not as much high flying. I mean, he didn't do anything we haven't seen every other guy do, jumping over the top rope, flipping, Hurricane Ranas. I mean, I didn't watching a lot of lucha matches, especially in the indies. I felt like it wasn't a true, they just avoided doing lucha. Yeah, you know what I mean? Most of the match. So I was a bit disappointed in that match. That match, I think I ranked it a little higher initially, but looking back on it, probably a 3 out of 5, a little bit better than average for me, but it didn't give me that lucha feel that I was hoping to get out of that match.
Well, I don't think you were going to get that. And the reason being is because this match should not have been on a pay-per-view. This match should have been on a, SmackDown or Raw event. And it's because this wasn't meant to actually, be a blockbuster match. This was meant for Escobar to send the message to Mysterio. Like they say in the beginning, Corey Graves mentions that it's, Escobar was once known as the king of lucha, and he could put out a wrestling match lucha style no problem, but the whole point was to show the disrespect for lucha wrestling by tearing the mask off, by showing Ray look, this is not what this wrestling's about, or this is not what we're about. We need to push above and beyond, from that heel aspect. This was supposed to be more of a storytelling match than an actual lucha match, because I saw where it got into being lucha, but they toned it down. This was the most kosher lucha libre match I've ever seen, and definitely meant for a story instead of what it should have been.
But how do you feel about Dragon Lee moving forward? Do you think this hurts his chances?
No, I don't think so as a whole, because if you talk about one match that would define a career, I mean, man, look at some of the other guys that went from jobbing out or stuff like that to making it. There's a huge plethora of people that have came out and got their asses handed to them like this and still came forward.
Right.
Good point.
Because WWE does a great progression for this. So Dragon Lee just got off of NXT, right? And he got moved up into this group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he'll get, well, then again, the track record with WWE and luchadors besides Rey Mysterio is pretty rough. But I mean, I think there's still a way to turn this around if they actually give him that opportunity. I do believe that.
Right. I agree with you. That match could have been on a Raw. Let's be honest, it really could have. It was a good match. I could tell Escobar is going to win. But I will give hope. I have to give respect to the commentary and Rey Mysterio, because a comment was made. Rey was saying that he's calling Dragon Lee the future of Lucha Libre. And so getting that push from Rey Mysterio is huge. So whether the outcome was a win or a loss, to get a push from Rey Mysterio, that's pretty solid.
It just seems from the match, I think Escobar is going to get a little more of a push out of it than Dragon Lee.
And I think he needs to, because I think he's going to be a great heel. I think they needed to continue that story, but again, they could have continued the story on a Raw or something like that.
Well, I just hope that he's not Alberto Del Rio 2.0.
I can't. Yeah, I agree.
I was worried about that because they did mention on the way down, I think Wade Barrett said when he showed up his first night on TV, he had a Rolex already, and I'm like, oh, are we going to go the rich Mexican route again? But even if they did, I feel like Escobar is more prepared, a better person to do that angle with than previously done. You know what I mean? I think he'll do it much better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, So we move on now to the Women's World Championship. Zoe Stark versus Rhea Ripley.
I was pumped for this match. I was expecting big things. The match was actually really solid. She pushed Rhea to the limit. I think that's the most you can look for out of a developing star, which I think she is. You know what I mean? She almost hit her finisher. The fact that she could flip Rhea Ripley around like that, then go into the reversal, that says tons about both women's wrestling skills. She shouldn't have put makeup on her face. That just seemed odd to me.
It was a war.
It was a war. I agree, but
that was sick makeup, bro. I wasn't gonna lie. The rip across the face. That
rip across the face was kind of cool, but I would have rather camouflage or something to go with her gear. But maybe I'm just nitpicking.
She looked a lot better than Rhea Ripley's makeup. Holy crap!
I was disappointed with Rhea's gear. That's the only thing that made the match rough for me. She had those like chaps on, and every time she like took a bump, she looked like I don't know. It was like watching on the Indies when you got that super tall, beastly girl, and she takes the bump, and it just looks weird because of her gear.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what I felt like this whole time, and it was like otherwise the match was amazing, but I'm sitting here and I'm like, God, why'd you have to wear chaps to this one? You could have done anything else. Put your knee pads and boots on and call it a day. All right.
China 2.0.
Did you notice her boots match Dom-Dom's?
Yeah, I think Graves said that out of nowhere.
I think that's what she went with the chaps because that was the hide kind of. I can't think of what it's called, but the cow, multicolored boots. Yeah. And the fact that she went with the chaps, I'm like, is that what she's going for to match the boots? Because that confused me as well.
No, it was a good match. I mean, Zoe Stark, she's going to be she already is a star, but she's going to be a big star. Can't take nothing away from her. She put on a show. Her and Rhea Ripley worked good together. I think you're going to see more down the road. I wouldn't lie. I think Triple H is going to try to push Zoe Stark some more.
I think so as well.
But of course, you're not going to take. I mean, Rhea Ripley's not ready to lose that belt.
No.
I told my wife she looks like China 2.0. She looks, not as big as China, obviously, but.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's that bodybuilder type girl, but like I really hate that whole I'm a monster aspect when you're 5'2".
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Zoe and Rhea both have some height to them.
Yeah,
they're both tall.
Yeah,
and being Zoe Stark's first big match, she put on a pretty good show.
Yeah, I was
disappointed.
Okay. In my defense, she looks pocket sized. Okay, like you stand up to the ropes. They're like where the average person would stand. She's standing there, and it's like it looks like she's just under, maybe 5'7". Like I could be wrong, but like she just looks short to have that a gimmick, especially next to Rhea, where Rhea is like tall as hell.
Right.
Like
with their hair giving her an extra 3 feet because of it was done.
Absolutely.
Hey, that hair made that headbutt look 5 times better. The one where she goes to springboard in and she just.
That
might have been the move of the match. That was beautiful.
That looked like it hurt like hell.
Yeah, sure did.
I'm like, so before we go any further, I'd like to thank everybody that's on the chat. We have 7 people in the chat. Please, wherever you're at, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, wherever you're at, please hit the follow or subscribe button to keep on getting more content from Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast, Sin and Bam Bam going forward. Thank you guys for the support. Love you guys, and you guys make this happen. So then
Sin's giving the official heart.
Then we have the match. Last night we had the game between Michigan and Ohio State. Of course, Michigan, my boys, beat Ohio State's ass.
You had to bring that up because I'm an Ohio State fan.
I'm just saying, Shane Taylor, he's a guest on the show before. He's an Ohio State fan. Heel Kevin, if you're watching on Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, or whatever, you're a Ohio State fan. Ohio State lost, so I expect a video from Heel Kevin towards my brother MATT on TikTok, and proclaiming Michigan as the #1 team in the nation and how bad Ohio State sucks. So,
Give it a few years. Give it a few years. Colorado.
The game. So I was happy. I finished the day. Then we got to watch War Games, and now we're talking about War Games. Men's War Games match.
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute, I'm confused. What were we talking about a second ago? Because it's not wrestling. I don't know any other sports. So was that baseball or tennis?
Yeah, no, it was football, and the University of Michigan, the team beat those boys from Ohio State. So
wait, what's football? Is that thing that they play in Mexico with the ball and the goals?
Absolutely.
It's the one that most of the top wrestlers used to play before.
The other one where they get really close in with the tights on. Yeah, okay.
There's a quote that I'm going to quote. Say off of a site, Bleacher Reports. They said this: "Pro wrestling, when done right, is the best."
Mm-hmm.
The main event of Survivor Series was done right.
So many stories were told. The potential cashing in of Money in the Bank and stopped. There was so much going on there. The war between Drew McIntyre and Uso. I think they could have done a little more with that, but leading into that was perfectly done.
Yes. Even the tension between Drew McIntyre and
Damian Priest.
Damian Priest. Wow.
Yeah, that was very well done.
Yeah.
From a storytelling point of view, this was definitely the best match on the card. I was surprised at the pop for Sami Zayn when he got out of the shark cage. That was massive in Chicago.
I'm not surprised.
Who noticed? Did anybody else notice? He looked like he just came out of a workout. He had a big old green T-shirt with a sweat mark down the front. I was like, what the hell?
I seen some comments. Okay, after Sammy came on and was like, "I need to prove that I'm a main event like material," and there was a lot of comments after that Raw from a lot of people on like Facebook and social media that's like, "Oh, Sami Zayn could never be a main event guy. He doesn't stand a chance," and blah blah. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, God, you guys don't know wrestling.
Yeah,
like you don't know wrestling at all if you're saying that. Like, there's guys who can make it. Just it's all about if WWE wants you to make it and where they write you in and how they write you.
Right.
And Sami Zayn, I'm happy for him because if you notice, he's been with the company for a long time and he's always been put on the back burners. Like, creative just had nothing for him, or he maybe got some crap storyline that he had to try to get through just to get through. But I guess backstage, Sammy's like a really good politic for the business. So I mean that helps you, I guess in the long run too. Now he's getting the proper push.
Exactly. And talking about Sami Zayn, I was never a fan of Sami Zayn until the Bloodline started up, and I got to see Sami Zayn in person. He was at I went to Pensacola Bay Center where they had the Road to WrestleMania 2 WrestleManias ago, and I got to see him in a match, and how he worked the match, how he worked the crowd, how he interacted was amazing. And now I know that of him. I'm like, holy! Now I see that when he's on Raw or SmackDown, I see that guy. I have mad respect for him, and he did great last night. I mean,
I feel like a lot of wrestlers have a lot of mad respect for him too. I mean, I've wrestled Napier. He uses the huluva kick quite effectively. It's a beautiful move. I personally, after watching him, picked up the Blue Thunder Bomb into my move set. So I mean, he can do the moves. He's original. He does a lot of stuff that, from a wrestler standpoint, you love.
Absolutely. And I love what they did with Cody Rhodes. 1987, the American Dream created War Games. So I love cool. that. I love that. The original. I love his gear, paid homage to all that, and it was good. And the match was great. Like you were saying, Sin, the conflicts between Jey Uso, and all those guys on that team that they didn't want to go against each other or with each other. Like, and Jey Uso thinking, oh shit, in the back of my mind is Randy Orton going to be the one that comes out? When's he going to come out? And then when he doesn't show up into the arena, everybody's like, holy crap, where's he at? Then they're looking at Cody Rhodes. Where's he at?
Mm-hmm.
You're lying to us.
I still think it would have been 10 times better if everyone was like, where's Randy? Where's he at? And blah, blah. And then they cut to like the video scene of Randy knocked out in the back. And then, and then Punk comes out to fill his spot. And then at the end, Orton's music hits and comes out and he's standing there like, what the heck? Like that would have been, I thought would have been like, wow, now I really want to watch. Did Punk knock out Orton for his spot? Like, oh crap, that would have been hot, but they didn't do that. But then seeing Seth Rollins' reaction though, after that, I'm kind of glad they didn't, because that would have probably ended really bad.
So yes, Gina, there is a podcast at 8:00 tonight. It's with the Apex. Matt, I can't not Stoffel. I can probably butcher his name. But
yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. But
so yes, now that we're there, well, you mentioned this. I was going to save it till the end of the talk about the match, but I'll play. Let's talk about the rest of the match. I got a video I want to play.
Okay.
Because I'm sure we can fill a half an hour with my rants and your rants about what happened at the end. But overall, it was a great match. I loved the hell out of that. We're talking about high spots. The tossing off of the top of the cage with the Randy Orton
yes.
RKO. I'm sorry. Randy's got to have great timing. But if he doesn't have timing right, that's a dangerous ass move.
Well, McDonough, when I saw him up there, I'm like, whoo, they're trial by fire. This guy's first pay-per-view match,
yes.
and he's doing this. I was like, and then the fact they didn't even pin him out of it,
right.
He hits this, and I'm like, oh, this is the end. This is crazy. Right. Yeah. And then to see Randy be like, no, you have it. You have it. You're part of Legacy. Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah. That was respect, mad respect.
Dude, the reaction from Jey Uso, though, in the corner, when Orton did it, there was. I watched it back 4 times because I'm like, okay, I want to see this landing, and then as I'm watching it, I look up and I'm just watching Jey in the corner. And he's like, oh.
I love that.
That's awesome.
And then Randy looked at him, and then he had Damian Priest coming over, and Randy looked. I thought they were gonna go. I thought, oh shit, here we go. And Jay's like, and he goes and he super kicks that Damian Priest. I was like, okay, he's basically going, don't kick my ass, Orton. I'm gonna take care of this guy.
Yeah. That was another story within the story.
Yes.
With that, I did not expect. I didn't expect Orton to come out and be like, okay, Uso. I'm like, oh, is Randy gonna be heel
right.
now for a second? And then, like you said, Uso saves the day for him, and he kind of is like, okay.
But I still think there was a lot of tension, and they did. And WWE did great with the storytelling. Storytelling, and it's now you're gonna wonder. Okay, so Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
Did you catch the possible foreshadowing though during that match?
Mm.
Did you notice that Jey Uso started doing some spit punches?
Yes, to Rock.
Is that a foreshadow for WrestleMania?
He's done them on Raw though, or on SmackDown in the past. He's kind of getting his spit, yeet, bam.
Yeah, but like even leading up to it though, like if you watch some of the spoilers to Punk's return or whatever, they've been saying, oh, like there's a lot of stuff in the background. If you just pay attention, you can see that they're planning to bring him back because look at that and look at this and look at what they're saying. And then you got Jay doing the whole pop, like who knows? We might get Rock and Roman for Mania.
Here's a question for you two. Do you see in the future, based on what you said, in the future, Jay and Jimmy mending the fence and getting back together to help Roman Reigns?
I don't know about to help Roman Reigns. I'm sure they'll do a mending of the fences at some point, But right now, both guys are especially main event. Jey Uso is really gaining a lot of traction as a singles guy because of breaking free of it. So I don't see him doing it for a while. He's too hot right now.
I could honestly see an angle where Bloodline's starting to fall apart, maybe leading into like the next quote unquote draft, that Jay builds up enough momentum, maybe even winning Money in the Bank and taking it from Roman Reigns to finally ending that streak, because he would be the one to do it. Like that would make the most amount of sense from a storyline standpoint.
So, but
I was going to say, then the only thing I worry about is he a true main eventer? Like,
well, I think that's why. I think that's why they split him up and they got him on Raw, and that they're trying to build him up to see how far that we can take it, because his brother showed a lot of promise when. When Jay was out, I think it was Jay that was out, right?
Yeah,
they confused me because they're twins. It's like I can't remember which one's Jay and which one's a Jimmy, but one of them was injured for that a while, and they were out or was suspended or something when they were starting the bloodline, and they were getting a lot of momentum with the one, and then the other one came back trying to convince to not help, and then now they're split up again. So I think Jay was the one who was out for a while because he had the issue with the off camera stuff with the police and whatnot, and had the alcohol issue. But now they have to break him apart and see if he can perform, and if he can, he would definitely be the one to do it.
A couple other moments that I thought were good was when Cody Rhodes reached down around the ring apron and pulled up the bull rope.
That was big.
That paid mad respect to his dad. And then the interaction with Seth Rollins, I think it was Seth and Cody going, and Seth's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, I was almost slightly confused by that. I'm like,
right.
Why is Seth want the bull rope?
Right. And then all of a sudden they used it as a team, which was great. So that bull rope, that was awesome. Dominic Mysterio getting his ass beat by the whole gang. That was good. And he did really good he's came a long ways in my opinion after he broke him away from Ray.
And you look at the whole progression as Dominic as a heel has been done so well, and on putting it over on commentary when they're like, "Oh man, it's like he's like in prison again, where all the guys are going to jump him." That was pretty entertaining.
The comment was made. He spent more time in those bars than he did behind when he was in jail.
That was money. I was laughing my butt off. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Good.
He did it. He paid respect to Eddie Guerrero with the that move that Eddie Guerrero did.
Three Amigos.
And he frog splash too.
Yeah.
When we thought that was the triple jump off the top.
Yes.
Well, of course, he's got to pay tribute to his real dad.
Yeah, his poppy.
Yeah.
Poppy. Yes. So the elephants in the room. Okay, so this topic can probably last however long we want it to last.
Oh boy.
We can talk about the pops, the people the returns, the Randy Ortons and the CM Punks. Anybody here? I guess my first rant is, anybody here look or watch TikTok?
No, I don't follow TikTok religiously.
Or other. Okay, on TikTok we have a bunch of creators. This is okay. I'm just I don't know who. I don't care who's listening, but the creators. You know what you know. But if you know Randy Orton's going to come in, there's a difference between popping or just going overboard. There's a lot of guys out there that are making videos like they were like, "Oh my God!" freaking out. Like, come on. Really? You're doing it for the followers. Maybe
you do it for the views.
Maybe I ought to start doing like that. Maybe that's why we don't get very many followers on YouTube. Maybe I need to get over exaggerated. But I think it takes away from the realism of what happened, Oh,
they got to have a paid reaction.
Yeah, but I get it, but be realistic about it. You know what I'm saying? Don't kick your chair out and go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I hate
that. Realistically, when the match had finished and everything had happened, we all know what happened afterwards. It's been talked about. When I heard the music hit, I did stand up. I didn't jump.
Oh, absolutely.
I stood up and I looked at Mel and I'm like, oh my God, he's there.
Right.
He's in Chicago. And Mel's like, who? And I'm like, you don't hear, like, the crowd was so loud she couldn't hear the music.
Right. You know, and CM Punk. So that's a question. I have a question for you. So you're Triple H, you're WWE. You bring back Randy Orton for the main event.
Yep. And
then you bring back CM Punk to end the show. Is it disrespectful to Randy Orton to bring, and that was his moment, right? That Survivor Series was Randy Orton's moment.
The RKO off the top of the cage.
Now, do you take, because if you notice, once CM Punk came on, it was nothing about the War Games team, Randy Orton.
It definitely stole the finish. And I think that I was even sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, man, they went into that pretty quick. They should have taken their time on. They should have let the celebration. They should have let them, go and do their celebration around, and then they should have went and then hit Punk's music.
Yeah, but so everybody knows what happened next. I got a video. I'm going to show the video. This one is pretty epic. I love. It's a side by side. So
good old. Yeah, that's just pure beauty, because if you do follow social media, multiple times after Punk was released from AEW, Seth Rollins was very vocal about the point that he didn't want him in WWE as a cancer. So the fact that Seth was trash talking him way before this deal got done was it can lead into some pretty big things. I know this is probably the most excited I've been to watch a Monday Night Raw in years.
Yeah. Well, my dad's watching the show and he goes, this is funny. He says, knock off the arguing. So love you, Dad. Love you, Dad. Then I got this one. It's, of course, just a downplay of so, question. Work or shoot?
Work, shoot, maybe? I mean, how real was Triple H when he said that only him and Khan knew about the fact that CM Punk was there, and that's how they kept it under wraps? If that's the case, and the War Games team didn't know, and Seth saw that.
All right. Let me ask you a question, Sin. I mean, come on. I laughed at that statement that Triple H made. Right? I laughed. Okay, let's set the grounds. CM Punk's not with AEW anymore.
Yeah.
CM Punk is from Chicago. It's one of the 4 biggest major pay-per-views. If you didn't think he was gonna be there, you got a problem. Because come on, it was so obvious that would have been the right move for WWE to make. If you pass on that, that would have been a total mistake for WWE.
I actually told my wife and my friend here that if, like, we have to watch pay-per-view tonight, like, we have to, because with everything going on, it's been the right time frame for a non-compete clause, whatever the case may have been. Like, it's around that time, and Triple H has always said, like, from now on, we're going to be more quiet about our returns. But, like, if you really watch and you look at timing and release dates and stuff like that, and you look to this, it's like they were still, like, leading up to this pay-per-view, they were still like wondering who's going to be the final guy, So when they say Orton's back, you're like, oh, okay, well, there's got to be more to this. So like when you started watching the pay-per-view and then they started getting into the whole he's not here yet, it just kind of gave away that there was going to be that surprise at the end. Like something was like missing. So when Orton actually came out for me when I was watching, I was like, okay, that's all right. They did as they said, but they kind of fed us in a weird way. There's something more to this. And it's like, sure enough, at the end, because I'm like, I kind of told my wife and my friends, I'm like, look, CM Punk's coming back tonight if he's coming back. If not, it's going to be the first like Raw after he's going to make somewhat of a appearance in some sort of like surprise thing that they do. But I totally called it last night, and I just didn't want to get told by anyone. Like Sin called me last night, and I'm like, don't. And that first thing I said was, don't say a word. Yes. I don't want to know. Just I'm watching it now. Give me a minute. He goes, all right, I'll call you. Call me when you're done. I'm like, all right. And I hung up.
Well, see, it's weird because he's not used to me calling him and talking about a pay-per-view. I'm usually calling him and be like, hey, we got a match coming up. Are you ready to get your ass kicked? That's usually how it goes.
Well, yeah, seeing as how I'm taking the hiatus, and he called me at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, don't say a word. I already know what this is about.
Now, do you guys feel that because Monday night's Raw is it Monday night show in Chicago?
No, Friday was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think it would have been do you think it would have took away from the CM Punk entrance or coming back if it was just at a regular show? Or do you feel that it would have been just as huge and that WWE should have stayed away from him at Survivor Series and let Randy Orton have his moment?
Well, I don't even think it's a Randy Orton moment type of thing, because Orton's gone and returned dozens of times because of past injuries and stuff. So like, this is no different than any other return, really. I mean, like, when it gets down to the end of the day, like, I did really think that Punk coming out after the fact, they did not take enough time for that. And I think that Seth Rollins' reaction was actually a shoot, because if you think about it, we're still in a PG era, and for Rollins to snap out and middle finger, say the F word, freaking out, like, that's finable by WWE status. Like, if anybody on camera would have done that where cameras were facing them, they would have been fined, gotten in trouble, whatever the case may be. But like, we're not seeing any of that right now for him getting in trouble because they were fixated on Punk. So there might be repercussions later for his actions. Like, I could see WWE like fining him, but not really doing much of anything else. But like, I think it's really a shoot. Like, I think that like, they really did not tell those guys this was happening, and they popped it out at the end, because the wrestling business is known to do that, especially like for a big return.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
do you think it was easier for CM Punk to come back because WWE is now taken over by TKO, which is MMA, and you think the connections were made easier for him to say, because let's be honest, he has beef with a lot of the WWE guys.
Well, okay, so let me start off by saying this. This is my whole view on Punk, right? There's a lot of people out there saying, oh, he doesn't deserve to come back. He doesn't need to be there. His time's up. Like, I've seen a lot of negativity, when in reality, Punk literally took his stuff and went home after one of the pay-per-views. And every interview that you have of Punk that you could go back and watch, like, just YouTube it, he will tell you he was injured, he was sick, he had to use Z-Packs, he was constantly dealing with problems with his body, and WWE was just blatantly ignoring it.
Yeah,
any wrestler,
Ryback.
any wrestler out there that is literally getting just ignored because of health reasons, I would have probably have done the same.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't blame him for doing it, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, come on. Like, then you got part-timers showing up that are, here, let's wrestle for a match. Let's take the title belt that actually I spent the last several years trying to make relevant and be decent again, and I'm just going to lose it to The Rock. I mean, I could see being salty about that when Rock and Cena didn't need the championship to begin with to have their match.
Right.
Now, the next thing with Tony Khan, with the whole, his battle with the elites, like in the backstage and stuff, we all know Punk's got a temper, and the Bucks are cocky. I met them backstage once. They're cocky guys. I don't care if they're watching or if they see this. I don't care. I've heard it. Same with Omega. Like when groups of people have the same views and they're getting their friends back and it turns into a fight, they all got each other's back. It's just how things are. Now the last argument when they brought Punk back for the second go, when he had the dispute with Jack Perry because of that car spot where he went through the windshield or whatever it was, that I agree with Punk that was unsafe as hell, but the way Jack Perry handled it was way too indie. It was like, I'm not a pansy, I'm just gonna do it because I'm on TV and it's gonna look good. And it's like, dude, your health is at risk. And I can see Punk's point. And then having Tony Khan get in the midst and try to cool him down and saying that Punk lunged at Khan. Well, I mean, from what we've seen with Tony Khan, he's kind of a pushover to begin with. And there's times where I see him and I want to punch him.
Well, I agree.
Like, I'm like, oh my God, why is he a promoter? Like, get him away from there. Like,
one of my favorite quotes that people say all over the social media about Tony Khan is, he is a grown adult playing with his action figures that was given to us by his dad, and put them wherever he wants to because he really don't know anything about wrestling.
Yeah,
because he doesn't. And I love. Did you guys catch the scrum last night? The media.
I love the fact that they didn't put Punk on.
Right.
Makes us want to see him that much more.
You see what Cody Rhodes did?
Cody Rhodes where he came out with the thing he was reading.
He's reading. Goes, oh, enough of that ESB shit.
Yeah, that
EVP shit. I'm like, yeah, buddy. But I'm a fan of. But Sid don't know this. My favorite wrestler is Sting. My second favorite wrestler is Punk. I get into many debates because I have the same opinion that you do. Jack Perry, when I hear about Jack Perry and that whole stint with Punk being pissed off about, and he should have been, that was a dumb move. I remember when AEW started up, I think it was Cody Rhodes, if I'm not mistaken. He was laying there and somebody did a attack on him punch, and he punched away from him, like that far away from him on TV. It looked so dumb. And Cody Rhodes is like, I do not ever want to work with that jackass again because he made our spot look stupid. And I think that's where Punk is. And I think people need to pay attention to Punk and what he says because he's very knowledgeable in what he's doing. And I'm sorry, he's a guy that doesn't give a shit. If you're going to do it the right way, I'm gone. Bye.
Well, he's vocal. That's what people hate about him is he's vocal. Absolutely. Now, as for I don't know, man. I can't sit there and back him because none of us know the actual whole story. But it's just one of those things where it's like it's the time and place. Like, the questioning about how much control does Vince McMahon truly have on WWE at this point with his new owners? How in control is Triple H? Like completely. I mean, from what we see, supposedly H is doing the story writing and everything else, and it could be that they might be sitting down with people with UFC and doing stuff too. And who knows? We don't know for sure because the company, all the behind the scenes stuff is just what hearsay. And I think what they're doing right now is great. I think Punk coming back is the right time, and I think that it's going to mean a lot more of him coming back to WWE than AEW because WWE actually knows how to write a comeback.
Now,
AEW doesn't.
I just want to give some background on CM Punk from my experience. I was in the Indies when CM Punk was still working Chicago. I've seen Punk work in downtown LaSalle in front of like 200-300 people. A lot of the guys in back at the time when he was starting to get into Ring of Honor and stuff, believe it or not, Punk had a lot of heat with a lot of workers in Chicago. This is nothing new. You know what I mean? He always had heat with a lot of guys. And a lot of guys would tell me, you don't want to work him, if you have a chance. But Triple H brought up the point that if you haven't changed over a 10-year period, you're doing something wrong. And I think Triple H just kind of grew up because we all know, I mean, the story's out there when Punk finally did leave over WrestleMania, it's because he wasn't in the main event. He was working Triple H. He felt that was beneath him. And H was insulted by that. And, you know, H has definitely changed over the years. And I want to believe in my heart because, you know, people change. I want to think the best of them. Punk's a hell of a worker. And I'd like to think his experiences have changed him. And I really feel like out of the stories I've heard what happened backstage in AEW, I think Punk was in the right to be like, no, you know, don't do that spot. So, and for him to look into the camera and be like, this isn't fake glass and all this. And, you know, just for Jungle Boy to put that much more crap in there, basically spitting in a veteran's face, I think was crap. I don't agree with how Tony Khan runs it either. I think Tony Khan, if he really wanted to do something good, instead of coming out and talking to the fans before a show and be like, oh, don't hate me, this guy did this and he did that. Pull a Vince McMahon. All of a sudden just be like, screw these guys. I'm the owner. You know what I mean? Make a rivalry out of it. Tell a story out of it.
Yeah.
Don't fire a guy.
Well, the other big issue is like, you know, I wasn't really around for Punk in the Indies, but we all know there's tons of workers out there that when they get broken into the business and they're told, oh man, you do really well, you're excelling, your training is going great in comparison to where you're at now, and they get that big head and they're like, it's me. I just want to get myself over. I just want to do this. It's all about me because I just want to get signed. I want to do this, do that. I mean, for all we know, Punk could have went through that because he had a small friend group going up in there. I know guys like Colt Cabana and Vic Capri and those guys. No, those guys are the exact opposite of Punk. Like, well, Cabana, I've had an experience with him where it is kind of about him. He just wants to do his work and leave. But
yeah,
I mean,
too.
I've seen that a lot. But like guys like Vic Capri, he'll bend over backwards for you. So, like, I mean.
So here's, I think this will be perfect to what Sid was saying, and I think what you've been pointing out. I found this on TikTok as well. It's a CM Punk take, so I'm going to play it real quick before we go up there.
I brought backup just in case they cut my microphone off.
Satisfying to me to kick your ass. And right now, this isn't CM Punk talking to Triple H. This is Phil Brooks talking to Paul Levesque.
Not everybody has granddaddy and daddy behind them to usher them into the WWE.
We don't smoke, we don't.
It's stressful. I'll be done in a little bit.
Hear that?
No. Well.
I brought backup just in case they cut my microphone off.
Satisfying to me to kick your ass. And right now, this isn't CM.
It's not working, but anyways, at the end of it, it shows Triple H and Punk's side by side. You know, those two things you were talking about at WrestleMania and all that stuff where CM Punk basically tells it how it is. And I think that's why I like him, because he's not afraid to tell how it is, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we all look at the pipe bomb. I mean, that made his career, just going out and saying, this is crap. I hate dealing with these people in back. John Laurinaitis, who I've worked with a lot of WWE guys. Some like Laurinaitis, but the majority of them couldn't stand the guy. So when I saw that pipe bomb, I wasn't surprised.
So I think the end of the show is that we all believe that was the right time for CM Punk to come back. It was a huge pop for him to come back. I don't think it overshadowed. I thought at first it would overshadow Randy Orton, but Randy had his moments, and they won. And I think, you know, he'll have more moments on Monday Night Raw. And I'm curious to see where they both go, because basically how it ended, it shows a lot of like we all agreed. There's a lot of storylines that were made in that match itself, and at the end of the show, even throughout the whole show, there was a lot of storylines that. For once in a great time that WWE finally put one show together that created a bunch more, you know, leading up to the Royal Rumble. So,
Yeah, totally agree. There was so much good stuff in there. A good friend of mine and one of the best storyline writers I've ever met, Kurt Razzo. I remember when we were talking about Punk, because got me thinking about this. He said to me he knew, like when Punk was in the RCW locker room and was their champ, they, like him and the other guys, kind of knew, like the way he handled business. If somebody was going to make it WWE out of this locker room, it was going to be him.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see everybody back. You know, it was a great pay-per-view. I think I'd give the pay-per-view probably a 4 out of 5 stars. Pretty solid. I was pretty impressed with the pay-per-view for one, you know, because they needed to knock it out of the park. Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't think SummerSlam was that great.
I don't know that I thought the matches themselves were that great. The storytelling is what was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last night.
So, Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. We do have a interview tonight, 8:00 Central, with the Apex. And Bam Bam, if you want to send some questions and join me in the chat, I'd love it. If Apex is listening, I have a feeling you have one hell of a night in store for you. So just a fair warning, shots are fired. Bam Bam, I think he's gonna challenge you with some questions, and that's up to you how you respond to them.
Oh, I already told him. I messaged him. I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna be there to troll you. He goes, oh no.
Shots fired. Even on a Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast, there's shots fired. So
I always feel like Bam Bam's the indie version of Owen Hart. He's the prankster. He's the jokester. You know what I mean? He's kind of our indie Owen Hart here in Illinois.
Awesome. So going forward,
Bam, I appreciate that. That's a compliment. All right.
Going forward, it's on Thursdays starting December 17th. It's going to be the Xtreme Power Hour with Sin and I, and Bam Bam. If he can join us, it'd be great. We're just talking all wrestling. Thank you, everybody, for joining in the podcast today. You two don't go anywhere. I'm playing out a exit song, and I'll be right back with you guys in the lobby. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys later.
All my dogs, make some noise up in this house.
Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with the devil, because when he dealing with you, you cannot get on this level. Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with a king. It's like a fight with an army. They got the tanks and everything. He's leaving bruises and stitches, possibly leaving you crippled. Cause when he sets up the table and sends you straight through the middle. 6 sadistic free, beat that ass with a light bulb. Leave a piece of glass embedded in the back of your skull. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground. Cause when your body